Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jeffrey Reddick.
This is Dexter from The
This is
Offspring.
Nathan East.
This is Sebastian Younger.
This is David Labb.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
I'm Krista Verno.
This is Ryan Sick.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, I'm Mark Valley.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
This is Scott Huesing coming in from Southern California with Pete Turner on The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero, Mark Valley, and Pete A. Turner.
Yes, I'm going to be spreading the bullshit thick because I got to hang with Scott, who's actually a certified badass and actually wrote the book. And I've never written the book, Scott, so I'm not a failure because I'm talking my book. But Jesus Christ, it's fun to be here. We had you, Mark Valley, and I sat down with you here at your ranch in Temecula, which is beautiful, on Boxing Day, 2017, and you were pre-launch. And now you've launched. So the first thing I've got to ask you, because I've seen you all over the place, Fox and Friends and all that stuff, is what is it like going on a book tour as a new best-selling author?
It's great. The best part is obviously meeting so many new people and expanding that network of friends and professionals and supporters and all of these great people that have really gotten behind this story. I mean, it's just been amazing. And for anybody that wants to write a book and thinks it's going to be this really A-list experience, I'll share a story with you. So I fly out from California across the country. I have to upgrade my own flight, obviously, and I land in LaGuardia. You think there's going to be some dude in a suit with a sign that says Pete Turner,
yes,
author, here to pick you up. No, that's not how it happens. No, It is not. Maybe in Hollywood, but maybe when it gets made into a movie that might happen. But they'll probably just Uber me up to L.A. anyway. But part of the story in New York when we landed is I got the best Uber driver in the world. Landed in LaGuardia, dragging 3 bags, accident at the shuttle pickup, and I get the best Uber driver on the radio. And it's like I'm back in combat now because I won't let this guy off the radio. He's like close air support. And I'm giving him a talk on. And for those of you that don't know what a talk on is, imagine a plane flying at 20,000 feet, and you're trying to talk him on to dropping a 500-pound bomb on this tiny little target. And you're like, yeah, it's the red sedan. And they're like, dude, I'm at 20,000 feet. I can only see the city.
Yeah.
So I got this Uber driver. We're humping across the checkpoint, and then they won't let any traffic in. So this nice Long Island couple who's listening to my story and wishing me good luck on Fox and Friends the next day, now it becomes like this mass Syrian refugee march across the 34th Street Bridge. Yeah. Still, Fariz is on the phone. He's like, sir, I don't see you. I don't know what this is. You'll have to call another Uber. I'm like, do not leave me. Do not leave me. And I'm wearing this expensive suit because I didn't want to pack it and have United lose my bags.
Oh, yeah, right.
Now, to add to the friction, which I talk about in Echo In Ramadi, it starts to rain.
Of course.
And it's pouring. And all of a sudden, I crest the 34th Street Bridge. I see hazard lights on a white Toyota Camry in Fariz. He's like, sir, you made it. Thank goodness. I'm here for you. Loads my bags up. This nice couple gives me a hug and a business card and kisses me on the cheek. And the lady says, thanks for your service.
Yeah.
And then I meet my publicist, and the next day we're on Fox and Friends and Brian Kilmeade and doing tons of radio. So it's great, though. It's exciting, and it's fun to be out there.
Yeah, so you get the Fox and Friends, and because you're on the A-list, they're like, hey, you hungry? Yeah, you can buy a sandwich in the commissary down the hall. It's about a quarter mile down, make a right. How is it like when you go on these shows? Because Johnny Walker's a friend of mine. He's written a book, and he went on the tours. He went on Huckabee and all that stuff, right? And different mechanism than a podcast where we can sit down in your house. You're sitting in front of Brian on the couch, Fox and Friends, and you're there for maybe 7 minutes, and you're going to get asked the same question everywhere you sit down on all the couches after that as you're on your tour.
Yeah.
You're not there to really explain your book. I mean, you're there to give like the elevator pitch and then poof, out, maybe one quick story. Did you know that going in, or?
Yeah, when we got in there, I think the pitch was that I'd been on Fox and Friends of almost 14 years prior when I saw my daughter for the first time on Fox and Friends when I was in Baghdad in 2004.
Huh.
And that's how I literally saw my daughter for the first time. Was one of my Marines blabbed, "Hey, my boss just had a kid," and they're like, "We got to cover that story."
Right.
So I was on Fox and Friends. So we led in with that. They showed a picture of Bailey and the video of my wife and
this
my
is
daughter.
your second visit.
Yeah, on the second
Okay.
visit. So they led in with that, and then they showed a picture of my daughter, and Brian has a 14-year-old. So I'm like, yeah, she's talking now for sure. But it was really cool. But yeah, it's a fine line between pitching and having this canned elevator speech and sounding authentic, which I always want to be authentic.
Sure.
I mean, that's part of how I write. It's part of, how me and you hang out and talk like this is being yourself. But, their staff is really good. They're obviously polished, but it's a very rapid process because you're sitting in the green room and, there's other guests coming on that are well known. Like me and Dan Bongino were sitting in there. I signed a book for him. He's awesome. Always got something to say. And then a week later, you run into the same people. I see Dan and Grant Stinchfield at CPAC. So they're like, "Hey, hop on NRA TV and, do a show with us." I'm like, "All right, cool, man." It's this network, and they get it. And they, much like Marines, and soldiers, they kind of smell fear, and they know who's legit and who's authentic. So it's those connections that I've made have really been valuable. And, to continue to be asked on shows and share this story, I think is really remarkable. And I'm really, really lucky,
When was the last time you read every word in your book? How long has it been?
Again, I think that's my penance for doing so poorly in high school, as we discussed on the last episode, as I was in the editing process. I've read Echo In Ramadi like 1,000 times, so it's maybe gods of literary punishment coming back to strike me. But I read select chapters every now and then, and sometimes I'll do an interview and they'll want me to read, but I normally don't read from it. Okay. And here's another true confession. I know you always like true confessions.
It. All right.
Alert, true confession from Scott Huesing. I have not listened to my book. So I've listened to Dave Morantz, who's a great actor, New York stage actor. He called me up as we were in the final throes of getting it edited. And that's a funny phone call too. You're sitting, I was sitting in a hotel room in Frisco, and he says, "I see this New York City number." I'm like, "Who is this?"
Yeah.
And he says, "I'm your narrator, Dave Morantz." I go, "Who?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm going to read your book for you for Audible." So I haven't listened to the entire book.
Yeah.
But I've listened to Dave. I've listened to like the sample chapter that's on Amazon right now, and Dave does a great job. But, the first question out of his mouth, Pete, is, "Hey, how do you say your name?"
Right. Good question.
You're like, yikes, this is going to be a long process. And about 5 pages of Word document, single-spaced, of words and phrases and spelling them out phonetically to Dave to make sure he got it right is tough. And, as much as I tried to purge Echo In Ramadi of military jargon, so because I wanted it to be accessible to everyone, not just military people, but families and wives and women and people that really want to understand sacrifice. I tried to purge all of that gouge you normally get and acronyms, but some of it's still there. You just can't get around it. And
right.
You know how we say, M240 Bravo. He's like, "Is it Mike 240 Bravo or is it just M?" I'm like, "No, that's when you just say M."
Yeah.
So there's all these little things. But
you could say Ma Deuce, but no one really. Yeah. Some people say, I would. Yeah, like it can be a whole conversation. I used to have this at least 60-second conversation that I would do where like it would be like in a staff room. Like I sent you that text today. Like I'm about to leave my house, and just for fun, I'm like, I want to make it like I'm on the radio leaving on a mission. So I, did my call sign. I gave you the rules of engagement. The ROE is show, shout, shove, shoot, 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 which is an actual legitimate briefable ROE, and the MILCOA and all that stuff. There's a ton of that, and you can go on indefinitely and say nothing to a regular person. But
I understood everything.
Yeah.
And then when I said I just sent out a trap mission for my Jack Russell Terrier who escaped from the ranch, you knew exactly what I was talking about.
Not only did I know what you were talking about, I thought to myself, "Oh, I bet he's got a drone."
Scott's in the command center in his office.
And he's like, "Go get the drone." And the dog's like, because obviously there's not someone, parachuting in, but maybe you can.
When you own a Jack Russell, you almost need a drone when he escapes because they are fast.
Yeah.
And insubordinate, like most Marines. So, it's a lot of parallels there.
Yeah. That's funny. Oh, man. I totally lost my train of thought as we got lost. Oh, yeah, the language. Yeah. And having someone narrate your book and everything, and then the last time you read all the way through it. So as you've had time to reflect, because the book's out, there's no more releasing it, it's done. At what point when you typed the word did you say, this is good enough? Like if there's a misspelling, I can't spend any more time on this. This thing is done. Have you been able to get past that, or do you still feel like, you know what, I just never nailed down chapter 8?
No, I don't have that feeling. I think we had so much help from the during the process, which is lengthy. And if you put the work in and you get the right people on your team, and I'm kind of talking to people that want to write for either whether an article or a book or anything, finding a good editor. I hired a freelancer who's a military brat. Her name's Sylvia Mendoza. Love her. She lives right down here in Southern California as well.
Okay.
And she's a professor, a writer, a practitioner. So I'm like, man, she's a perfect fit.
Yeah.
And so when I originally wrote all these chapters and it became about the word count, and you remember the science project I had in my office with all the scribbles and like it was like 100 and something thousand words, and I was like, hit the brakes. We have to stop. And that's when I hired Sylvia. And then it boiled down to she cut 3 chapters immediately. She's like, these don't belong in here. Then it was down to 96,000 words. And then you get a project editor, and they go through it. And Scott Beliveau, who's a professor at VMI or with the Alumni Association, he worked on it. And he works for my publishing house, Regnery. And then it gets even better. And that's an interesting dialogue, too, because you have to find a way to keep your voice in the book without relegating them and their expertise, but you have to be open. But there was a point in time where, Scott was going back to me and he's like, Scott, and that was confusing for my editor too. He was like, hey, which Scott is this?
Which
Scott
one is
or Scott? And we have the same initials too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's SAH, SAB. He would describe things almost in too much detail, and I'm like, stop. I'm like, I want the readers to have to figure things out for themselves at some point. And so we got through that, and then it goes to copy edit. And this is a, fresh college grad in most cases who works for a publishing house.
Right.
And they are concerned with redundancies and typos and all of this. And throughout this whole process, which was really quick for me because they did a really quick turn to get the book launched on February 20th, I still had Marines and friends reading it. And thank God, again, Marines, we will eat our own for breakfast. But a good friend of mine who I shared a copy of the book with, Gunner Shelby Lassiter, he emails me one day, and this is like the day after I hit the big red send key, like,
oh boy,
it's done. Like that was when I was like, yep, I'm good with it, going to print. And he goes, hey, sir, in Chapter X, you talk about the M1 tank, and you say the coax machine gun is a 50 cal. I think it's a 7.62.
Yeah.
And I was freaking out because Marines, they will destroy you if you get it wrong, and it was very important to me to get it right. So that's kind of the lineage of editing. But I feel very comfortable with the way it is now, and the feedback has been great. And I get so many messages and emails from stories like that, which are validating to me on writing the story, and I can share one of those with you if you want. Yeah,
let's do that. But first, let me say this: right now we have author Scott Huesing on with us. You can grab him on Twitter at Echo In Ramadi, which actually is also the title of his book, which you should grab on Amazon. So Scott has been on before. He sat with Mark and I don't know, maybe episode 200 something. But for sure, give us some of the feedback stories because that stuff's great.
Yeah, it's really remarkable to share so much of yourself and share the stories of the Marines and the families that supported us, because it is not just another war story. It's about people and about emotion and the fighting and the friction and the excitement and some of the laughable times too, where Marines will do what Marines do. But I got this email about 3 weeks ago from Staff Sergeant Phil Morehouse, and he sent me this through my website at echoinramadi.com, and anybody can email me, and I'll read it. And he wrote, "Dear Sir, I'm probably sure that you don't even remember me. My name is Staff Sergeant Phil Morehouse, and I was in the admin shop with Task Force 19 Infantry, and I was there the night Corporal Libby was shot, and I heard the call on the radio, and I raced across Route Michigan to the combat outpost, and I was in the battalion aid station when your convoy rolled in through the maze of chem lights, and your trucks came to a hard stop and the dust cloud around him. And I remember your Marines carrying Corporal Libby, and I remember your every step, and I remember the look on your face, and I remember the look on everyone's faces as they brought Libby in. And he goes on in the email, but the last thing he said, which was really important, was, yes, we definitely made a difference. And I mean, I get emotional just telling that story because it's just so impactful when you read that. It just, it pops up on your screen and you read these words from someone whom I probably passed a dozen times, this nameless, faceless soldier who was there fighting alongside us, doing his job, and to have that reflection, to see that reflection from somebody that you never even knew about things that were known to you that you were experiencing. I mean, I was there that night. We drove Corporal Libby to the combat outpost, and to see it through someone else's eyes and that reflection is really powerful. To know that, he also said, I haven't thought about those things in 11 years. And to be able to share that and evoke that type of memory in someone else and understand that what you've written and the story that we've shared in Echo In Ramadi was important. It was not only an important battle, but the message is so important. And to be able to touch people like that I'd never even met, and that the book, again, serves as some sort of portal for guys to heal and, reconnect. It's really humbling to have that shown to you, and that's just one of many that I've received, from guys I've fought with, and, from the families who say thank you for being our voice, and understanding that not everybody can do that. And, I'm lucky to have those people in my life.
You're right. The emotions, and, I didn't know Corporal Libby or
Corporal Dustin Libby.
Corporal Dustin Libby. I didn't know, but I do know that whole story, that whole thing. And one of the things I wanted to give back to you is you think about what that staff sergeant is saying. This is you at one of the most important moments in your life. If you've got 100 moments, like when you die, they're not going to talk about Corporal Libby, but when you want to be remembered, that's you right there commanding Marines, and I'm having trouble saying it, but in the hardest time. And you're not acting. You're being you. You're being genuine. And there's nothing more real than that. And to share that, like, did we make a difference? Yeah, now we really did, especially in this one little window, because we quickly moved past all of that conflict and everything else. And it does get lost. It does get washed away. I haven't thought about that in 10 years. That quickly becomes, no one's ever thought about it because it's gone. And here you are doing exactly something that made someone pay that much attention. You gave them that kind of clarity with your actions. That's a testament to you, man. Well, it's powerful.
It's probably, again, it takes a long time for people to understand that you don't realize it at the moment. Even us sitting here today, there may be a story 10 years from now I tell about Pete Turner. It may not be a great one, but, it may be a book. You never know. I mean, we could go there, but you really don't realize the impacts you're making in people's lives, especially as a leader.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too. And I try and explain that in the book, is those important lessons of leadership. And a really good friend of mine who wrote A Warrior's Faith, Robert Vera, an amazing guy who wasn't in the military, but wrote about our nation's military and the sacrifices. You get so close to your work at times, Pete, you don't realize you're doing certain things. And he says, what was really important about what you told in Echo In Ramadi is the fact that you lead and you continue to lead your Marines. Like, it didn't stop in Ramadi.
Right.
You have this immense, unexplainable connection to your Marines that's what real leaders do, is you continue to lead. When we look at the wall and look at my oath of enlistment or my officer's oath, there's not an expiration date on that, Pete.
Right.
Those are things that I swore to uphold, and there is no expiration date, and I continue to lead my guys. And Robert saw that in the book, and he says, you're one of those guys that you have to stay connected to them, and it's something in you, and that's not in everybody. And I never really realized that. And again, it's one of those things where it's humbling for me because, first, I don't think it's exclusive to Scott Huesing. I'm sure there's plenty of other officers and enlisted leaders that still stay connected to the guys they led, whether in war or peacetime. And it's an important message, though, to understand that your leadership doesn't stop when you leave the battlefield. It doesn't stop when you leave the military. And I think, again, it really comforts me, I guess, for lack of a better word, that my Marines to this day still call me. They still email me, ask me for my advice. They ask me for my input or letter of recommendation because they still look at me as their leader, because I still feel that I have that responsibility to lead them. And not only my Marines, but our families and all these connections on social media. And again, you can poo-poo social media all you want, but they're not electronic friends. These are real people. And when they need something from me, I look at it as nothing more than an outlet for them to connect with me. And that is really something that is just amazing, is that power of human connection that, we were like pen pals for a while, and then boom, you show up at the ranch, we do shows, and now we hot potato our friends and guys in our network around, like, you should do this pod, or you should do this show, or Scott, you need to meet this guy. And it continues to grow. Yeah. And through Break It Down show and so many other great shows and outlets allow us to share these stories and not get marginalized in mainstream media. It's fascinating to me, and I'm very grateful to you.
Yeah, well, I'm grateful to you for coming on and sharing it, because this is the first warrior generation that has been able to do this right here, tell these stories in the moment and describe friction. Because when we send young people out to go do something that relates to combat or conflict, even if you want to lower the bar and just say a place that really sucks, there's friction all over the place, like the military. I know from the Army end, we're always self-developing and developing the people underneath us. So, as a commander, you're like, I need you to work on this. I need you to get published. I need you to do this. Tell me about what you're, doing here. Tell me about you're always worried about the people below you. And I haven't said anything related to combat right now. Like, in addition to the hard-ass, impossible, dangerous, lethal shit, like, you better wear all of your kit into the bathroom because I don't want you to die in there, And
that's happened.
And that's happened for real, and not at your own hand. That also has happened. But also, like, let's get you to where you can be the next step up. How do we get you promoted? Hey, first sergeant, what's going on here? Why are these dumb shits not doing this thing? Oh, got it. Because you care about them in so many different ways. So that friction happens there. But that friction's also like, what do you mean our supply of boots isn't going to be here for an extra 6 weeks? I got Marines with torn up boots, and like, boots wear out. We worked so hard that I patrolled so much. My body armor, I walked until the blanket fell out of it. And I didn't even know, because you got so much shit on that. I came back and I'm like, holy shit, my blanket's gone, And in that kind of environment, they're like, yeah, that's a lot of patrolling. Well, here's your new kit. You get a new one and you keep going. Doors. How many times did doors and chairs just fail? And you're like, I don't got time to fuck with doors and chairs and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Friction is everywhere, and describing that. So let's go there. Like, understand what this means. All of this stuff has to be accounted for, and you had better be ready to pay that cost, because we'll go out there and make that sacrifice. But like, why the fuck don't we have better dental care for veterans? Like, you have to have something rotting in your head before you can't, like, if you're a veteran and you come back and you don't have much money, 2 cleanings a year is normal. I'm sure we all have the money for that. It's all of those things that go into that friction, that cost. And again, telling the story like Echo In Ramadi or any of the other stories, this is what it means to go out there and do this stuff.
Yeah, it's the little things that really compound. And it's a little cliche or adage is, those ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain. But getting through the smallest details on the battlefield are one thing. Probably one of the better examples in Echo In Ramadi was the fact that I was, self-described, or I think my Marines gave me the title, like Captain Huesing's going out of business sale, where I ordered them to take every weapon out of every single house. And to the average American, I don't know how to explain it to them, but this meant, carrying not only the 50 pounds of gear plus their 7-pound rifle that they had to fight the enemy with, and then they were slinging 2, 3, 4 weapons across their back,
right,
Indian style, like the Wild West. And then if they got in a firefight, friction.
Yeah.
So now they're carrying all this load, and they're probably like, Captain Huesing and his rule, But the more weapons we took out of the city, the less we got shot at in the end. And that was part of our job is clearance operations. I was dead set on clearing all this stuff that could kill people in the city. But those little things would just continue to build. I mean, so how do we explain that to the average American? It'd be like, okay, Pete, I want you to go down to your barn, and I want you to grab a rake. And then, and bring a shovel, a hard rake, the weed whacker, the leaf blower up all at the same time. Yeah. And run while you're doing it. And like you imagine, it's like a soup sandwich, man. It's just like you're trying to hold on to it, but it's just falling apart.
Yeah.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
You imagine it's like a soup sandwich, man. It's just like you're trying to hold on to it, but it's just falling apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you're in motion. But
everywhere you go, this bowling ball goes with you.
Yes.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't care how you carry it, but it's got to go. And you'd be like, oh, damn, And then, like, if you see a bowling ball, I want you to pick it up. And carry that one too, so I answer questions all the time on Quora about combat things like that, and what weapon would you carry? Like, and who carries a Gurk? Like, I don't care what kind of fucking knife you carry, because you need something sharp, because you might have to cut yourself out of a vehicle, you might have to do something, but no one carries a 5-pound sword.
Yeah.
Look, this shit isn't real.
We did have bowling balls too. We'd go through as we were fighting in Ramadi. They're called detainees. So in addition to carrying all the weapons, we'd catch a bad guy in the middle of a stash of weapons, and then there's your bowling ball.
Right.
And by the way, bring this guy with you too.
Yeah.
Or have to call to get a truck to come pick him up in the middle of the night as you're working off of no sleep for 2 days, and it's just friction. I think I almost called the book Friction. I mean, I think it would have been a good title. Like, hey, have you read Friction yet? It's all about the little things going wrong.
We went on a patrol to go from here to there to talk to a partner. No big deal. I mean, you're going through a combat zone. Everything's switched on. You're prepared for a fight. There's not going to be a fight for the most part, because there never is. Well, someone decides otherwise, and there was 2 RKG-3s at us. RKG-3 audience is a hand-thrown grenade. They threw an American sniper. It's basically like a hand grenade with a parachute on it. It's designed to take out armored vehicles, which we were all riding in. So they throw 2 of these things at us, right? And the first one hits, and you hear it, and it's like the vehicle behind us, maybe 2 back. So not far away, but not on us. And radio chatter goes on. It's like everybody's good, keep on going. You just push through. So we've been attacked, and the answer is you push through. So we get to the Iraqi partners' headquarters, and they're like, we heard you had some excitement on the way over. And this is what we call excitement, someone has thrown an armor-piercing grenade at us, and it's excitement and no big deal, and we push through. So that's already tons of friction that for the rest of the world would be like, are you fucking kidding me? And so then we find out, like, the Iraqi general says to the commander I'm working with, he's like, yeah, but they threw 2 of those things at you. We're like, wait, 2? No, it was only one went off. No, there's another one. And we went and we picked it up. And the colonel that I'm with goes, oh, wow, they threw 2? I'd like to see that one. Well, the button's pushed. Here comes the Jundi, the Iraqi soldier, and he's got it, and he brings it into the room. God. So just so the audience knows, these things are tripped almost kind of like airbags. So like you've hit something, and the lever goes forward, and it makes the connection, and this thing can go off literally at any second. The fact that it hasn't, like, we don't know now when this thing will go off, but it will probably go off. So he brings it in, and we're like, ah! Can you imagine? We would have survived the bombing and then not survived the second one. So it doesn't go off, but here's the friction thing is now we own this bomb. Like, it's ours. You know how this goes. You're
yours,
like, so you're like, well, now what do we do with it? Well, let's, since you're already carrying it, Mr. Iraqi soldier, please carry it outside, And then we call up, this is sword 6, a whole bunch of things coming. And so the EOD guys come on. And I know on TV the EOD guys are cool, but let's face it. Here's what those guys were doing. They're playing Xbox, and they're like, oh, shit, God damn it. So literally 6 hours later, and we're maybe 4 miles from the post,
4 miles is like 400 miles for listeners that don't understand. Like moving around that type of urban environment is like driving to Kansas.
Top speed, 15 miles an hour, mostly so that we don't kill ourselves.
Right.
So literally 6 hours. And, you're like, we did our work hours ago, so we're sitting out there in 115, 130 degree heat with your full kit.
Because you can't just leave it. And that's it's like, because you're surrounded again by these Iraqi citizens who are living in this city. And, if they stumble upon that, we're not worried about insurgents picking up, but like we hope they pick it up. Like, it'll probably go off on them because they were that dumb at times. And there's a great story about that in Echo In Ramadi too. But we were there to protect the civilians. And I always take exception then and now when they were referred to as collateral damage because, they weren't collateral damage. They were people. And they had kids and they had wives and they wanted to go to college and the soccer game on Saturday, and they couldn't do it because they were surrounded by this brutal insurgency that was hell-bent on getting their hateful message across through murder, intimidation, kidnapping. You just can't imagine that type of added friction as well as you're trying to at times protect these people, kill bad guys, soothe the local citizens so they like you to win them over. So they're helping you with, providing information on where the bad guys are, what roads to not go down. Hey, don't drive there. There's a bomb in the road.
Right.
Just those friendly little tips from your neighborhood watch in Iraq were very valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, very appreciated. Hey, by the way, I think your audience should also know that the sound effects you hear on today's podcast are provided by Pete Turner. Those are not on his computer. I'm sitting across from him, and he's not hitting the button, making the explosion sounds or the buzzing noises. Or it's all Pete. There's talent. I'm peeling back layers every time we get together. There's all of this talent. It's crazy. And he's writing, too, now, so I'm waiting to get a glimpse of some of Pete's work, too. How's that coming? How's your writing coming?
The outline that I'm going to build has to be very detailed, and I feel like maybe even more detailed than a regular book. I've not written a book, so I can't say that, but I know from like my academic writing, it's much more clear because I have to, I intend to speak my book out because I just have not figured out how to sit down and do the work. So rather than fight that, let's do something that I know how to do, record audio I know how to do. So that part's coming good. I think the outline is in an area where I believe that I can narrate out the book, and then we'll see about my idea about doing that. And then I think I'm going to focus on getting the audio book out first and seeing if a written book makes itself needed.
What's the pitch?
The pitch?
Sell me the book. What's the pitch?
Sell you the book.
Sell me the book, Pete.
So the book in its current, this has been one of the problems.
No.
Just trying to
pitch.
The pitch. The pitch is this book is about the importance of non-lethal activity and how we approach combat, because most of what we do is not shooting weapons or sending fire missions out. It's mostly engaging with the populace. So to keep us from being the insurgents, to keep us from screwing up our own success, let's understand what it takes to do that stuff better. How do you transition power back to the Iraqis, back to the Afghans, that kind of thing.
I like it. I don't know if I want to buy it yet. We're going to work on the pitch after the show.
Yeah, that's fine.
Transitioning the Power, I think, is a good title. Yeah, Transitioning the Power.
Yeah, because there's no transition operations doctrine, effectively. There's basically silent. There's a little bit of stuff like, you're going to have to give this stuff back to the Iraqis. Like, okay.
That's a tough thing, though, like, to get put on the spot, like pitch.
Yeah.
And to be able to make people want to read. And, part of the process, too, is you kind of have to accept this. And guys in the military are really bad at this, about being promotional and being able to share the story through whichever medium. Maybe it's pod, maybe it's writing, maybe it's blogging or whatever it's like. But being able to share that, it's something I've found that is very unique. And it's great to get feedback when they say when guys do say, hey, thanks for that podcast.
Yeah.
I never would have been able to say that. You said everything for me, or thanks for writing that book, or thanks for sharing that article. And that's an important message to people who think they may want to be writers or may want to start a podcast, because all of those great mediums, like I said earlier on the show, those are the things that are going to help make sure these stories get told and they don't get marginalized in mainstream media, which is happening. I hate it when I see stuff pop up in Hollywood or in New York or wherever, and they're almost, stealing these stories or stuff from our veterans and using it as their own. And, kind of the sheep of America will go lay down $60, $75 at a movie theater and watch a movie about these actors pretending to be heroes from some fictional screenplay when we've got real stories that we can make great movies about like we used to. And there's so many of them out there. And I think that's an important message, though, is, don't be afraid to tell your story and write or talk about what you know. I mean, everything you talk about on every pod is like, know what you're talking about. You're not outside of your lane. I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about what I know for sure. We were talking earlier, and maybe I wanted to bring it up. But those commanders that I work with, I develop, I'll give you my pitch as Pete coming in, like, hey, Major Huesing, I'm going to be in your battle space, and I'm going to need access to patrols. And I know you hear this stuff a lot. You got a lot of enablers, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out and I'm going to show you things that you can't see from anybody else, and it's going to be the honest truth. I've done this for a number of other commanders in the past. If you want their names, I can give them to you, but you're not going to really need that. You're going to probably put me under a captain, and that's fine. But what's going to happen is in 3 weeks, you're going to start to see what I do, and in 3 months, you'll understand it, and I'll be sitting on your couch with open access to you. That's what's going to happen. I just need access. If you give me that, it's done. And every commander has said, well, shit, no harm for me. Yeah. You can have a seat in any ride you want. And then I also would say this, and in 3 months, you're going to look at me and you're going to want to say, Pete, you're the best guy at this I have. I couldn't do this without you. You don't have to say it because we already know that you're going to say it. And when I lay that bet down, every commander's taking the bait because they like audacity. You guys have all been trained to be audacious.
Yeah.
And so you go out and then you go find the things that they can't see. And you're like, when everybody else is not bullshitting, but when they're giving you like, our job is to increase capacity with the police. And I'm like, I went out and talked to 100 people today, and I asked them a series of questions trying to figure out what it takes for them to call the police, and I got nobody to say they would. You as a commander are like, what the fuck? I'm training these guys and nobody cares. I need to know about that because now you can direct assets towards that part of the problem.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah, and calling the police on what? Most people didn't have phones. The cell service in that country to this day is still like sketchy at best. I mean, when you came into the house, I showed you the picture of my Terp, Big Sam, who is on his way back from Iraq. And one of the first things I asked him, I go, hey, how is it over there?
Yeah.
Do they have cell phones? Are the stores open? Is the traffic? And obviously, I'm going to share some videos on my Facebook page here today of the traffic on Route Michigan, which we know in 06 and 07, if there was a car driving on that street, it was a bad guy.
Yeah.
And we were lighting them up.
Yeah.
And now they're driving freely. But there's still things. I said, are there ATMs? Are they – No ATMs. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
I mean, we can't go a half a block without hitting 3 ATMs.
Yeah.
And this is an entire country, one of the most oil-rich nations on the planet Earth.
How many fire stations did you encounter when you were there?
They have fire stations?
Exactly right.
I don't remember seeing many fires.
I actually interviewed dudes at one. I don't know what happened.
Sand and brick.
Yeah, but so in Baghdad, I was at a place and I'm like, holy shit, a fire station. Because, I mean, that's like a stability indicator, right? Like you have someone to call. How often does someone call you? No one ever calls us to do anything.
Very funny, sir. It's a very funny joke.
Yeah. Yes. But, I mean, these are the real things that, like, we're going to leave. These guys are chilled out. But they don't even have a fire station?
No fire station.
Yeah.
No real police to enforce the laws that are there. And then, I love the ATM thing. Like, you imagine, like, trucking money around in the back of semis. That's how they get paid.
Yeah.
There's no direct deposit. The things we take for granted here that we just swipe our card and, we're a fast food nation. We want everything easy access. And when we don't have it, oh, man, it is a firestorm of hurt feelings for most Americans.
In a country of not enough, and you deliver a truck full of money, are you surprised if someone takes a little extra? Like, you can't be. That has to be like, no, that's a norm because you couldn't do that here.
Completely acceptable.
Yeah. Like, that's how it has to be.
In that culture, yeah.
Yeah, it has to. It would be the same way here. Like, if we didn't have a solid electronic banking system, I mean, how was it before we had all those things? There's people that would rob shit all the time. So yeah, that stability thing and that grinding, that friction that you're always talking about, that stuff is constantly present. And here we are trying to figure out like how to transition all this power. Same thing in Afghanistan. Same problems.
I mean, I don't know if we talked about it in the first one, but in Afghanistan especially, it's so vastly different for listeners to understand. Their view of the Middle East is one thing, like they're all the same. It's dusty, sandy, everything's made out of, these adobe, cinder block houses. But Afghanistan is like the moon. I mean, and like when we would go in there and walk around these tiny villages and tribes, I think I described it as we were like spacemen. Yeah. With all of our kit and everything. And that's in Iraq, it's not like that. They get it. They understand who we are. They know we're kind of there to help. But in 14 years since we started, purging Iraq, let's just talk about Iraq specifically, of Saddam Hussein, purging Iraq of a brutal insurgency that was in every city from Fallujah to Tikrit to Ramadi. Yeah. And some of the bloodiest fighting we've seen in modern warfare, to ISIS coming back in 2015, and now we've ground them into fine powder, thankfully. But we're still over there fighting.
Sure.
I mean, we're still in Iraq. We're still in Afghanistan. But to understand that, is something that I don't think most Americans really realize, is that we're still fighting these wars.
Yeah.
And, the fact that we're still dumping millions of dollars, billions. I mean, I wrote an op-ed recently, not bashing former Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, but he was quick to pull the trigger and pony up $3 billion to Iraq to help them rebuild their country. Yeah. And guess what Iraq was asking for from the world's leaders? $80 billion. I'm like, really? Yeah. I go, when we start getting gas for $1 a gallon again here, then I'll be on board with, giving you guys another handout. But they had such a poor track record of being good stewards with our money and our help. And, we spent enough time and money and blood. But that all being aside, is to continue to dump money into that country when they can't even get ATMs working, man. Yeah. Like when you build ATMs.
So one of the things I talk about in a lot of my work is, what's the baseline? Like, hey, governor, no shit, we're leaving, and then we don't do this. Like, we're like, and someday down the road, we're going to take off. I was at the time when we were boxing things up. Like, we will never be in this area again in the next, 3 months at the shortest, 8 months at the longest. And the Iraqis like, no, you're always going to be here. Like, no, we're really leaving. And once it dawns on them, you could see the look in their face. They're like, you're really leaving? Like, yeah, we're really leaving. What do we have to get done right now? I'm Pete. You can tell me. I'm not the Army guy. Like, no shit. And they're like, I hadn't thought about this, but I need electricity. I need to have a generator, and you're like, okay, well, that's sensible, And then they'll say something super smart like, how long would the government work in your state if there was no electricity? I'm like, about 8 minutes. And we would lose our fucking minds,
And that's at the micro level. And the way I'm looking at things now at my age and having a little more information and perspective is at the macro level is, how do we show this country what right looks like? And I'm always saying that is, we were fighting bad guys. We weren't fighting policies and strategies or politics. We were fighting the enemy. I was there every day in 06 and 07 to kill bad guys. And that's what we did. And we were lighting up the scoreboard. And that's what we were good at. We weren't worried about any of the other stuff. But now as I look at it from the 30,000-foot level, is this country needs to be shown what right looks like. And by that, I'm not saying, the biggest, baddest country in the world and, America #1 is going to go over there and impose our piddly, 250-year existence on a culture that's been around for 5,000 plus years.
Right.
I'm just saying, show them what right looks like. Sure. And to do that, we need our political structure to go literally fly over there and show them how it's done and stay and suffer, not equally, but as much as the U.S. troops are willing to do, or at least surrogates to show them how to do it, and develop governance, and then have our industrial leaders like the Walmarts of the world, the Home Depots, or the Microsofts really go over. They're always concerned with a rain-starved country in South America or Africa that can't have a running well, but we're dumping all these billions of dollars into Iraq. They don't want to go over there and show them what a Walmart looks like. Yeah. And I wrote an article about that too. I'm like, that's how they figure out oh, this is a great model for success, and oh, this is how it's done. And it doesn't mean planting American flags in the country of Iraq.
It can't mean that.
It can't.
Yeah.
It absolutely can't. But if we put some skin in the game and really go over there and show them what right looks like, I think that's how we move forward to build alliances in that region and really have effective stability. We figured that out in the Pacific Rim after World War II. We figured that out in Korea after the Korean War. And we certainly figured it out even after Vietnam. We left the presence there. We showed them what right looks like. And then maybe it takes 50 years, and then we kind of ease our way out.
That's part of it, because you can't – I mean, and we do, to be fair, we do try to show them what right looks like. But, again – it's from our own particular point of view. Like, let's say you go back and you're a rule of law contractor and you're an expert in that. Just because you count how many judges are there, it doesn't. Because I've talked to the judges, and they're like, because we'll have this perception of, they don't care about rule of law. The judge doesn't hear any cases. I don't know why he's not bringing more cases in. Like, all right, that's a good question. Let me go ask him. So I go ask the guy, and he's like, first off, I'm not from around here. No one likes me. I'm terrified. I was told I was going to get a gun. Where's my gun? That guy, that rule of law guy? Yeah, Chris, or whatever his name is. He owes me a gun. I don't have it. I'm terrified to be here. I'm barely here. Like, I'm always ready to go. My bags are packed. I will leave if I sense trouble. And again, no one likes me because I'm not them. I don't know how the court works in your country, Pete, but in our country, judges sit and they hear cases that are brought before them. I don't go bring cases before myself. And I'm like, well, that's really fucking good. Write that shit down. And then you take it back. So we have this problem of, we're going to help teach you about rule of law, about governance, all these other things. But like, well, slow the fuck down for a second. And let's ask some questions and understand where they're at. And if they're like, I can't be in my governance center way out in the middle of, Apple Valley, with no other support around and no electricity, because that's not where the work is. The work's back here at the, in the main hub. That's where I got to get the money. If I can't bring money and services to those people out there, then there's no point in me being out there. There is no government. Even if I'm sitting there, it doesn't make the government show up. And so we try to figure these things out, but no one's trained to do these things. And so we do try to, there is no electricity. Yeah, shit. How do you govern without electricity? Oh, and by the way, this guy had no idea we're leaving. And he's like, holy shit, you're leaving? I got to get the fuck out of here because they're going to kill me. That dude I'm talking about, they smoked him just a short while later, because he's like, I'm not in charge. You guys have been in charge.
Yeah.
You guys are holding everything together. The second you leave, I'm dead. And he was right,
Yeah, that's not urban legend. I mean, that happened often. We'd go in and again at the micro level, at the ground level, we were thinking we're making all of these impacts and differences, but when we were ordered by higher authority to pull out of an area, they were left alone and afraid because they didn't have the big bad army or the U.S. Marine Corps to protect them.
Yeah.
And their government certainly wasn't doing it. The army wasn't established and didn't have any continuity or stability, and their police force was almost non-existent. So again, first, how do you call the cops? There's no 911.
Right.
And when you do call them, good luck with that one.
Yeah. Wait, you're calling us?
Yeah. There may be like a 3-day response time. Like, we'll be right there.
Yeah. And there's no way to. That's not how they.
Can you imagine calling 911 and the operator says, Inshallah?
Inshallah.
Which means God willing. Like, my house is burning down. Well, God willing, we'll get there when we get there.
One of the days that we asked that question. We did this a lot. I would ask these questions about, like, okay, bad man's out the door. Who are you going to call? And we'd work our way through the whole thing, and they would never say the police. And then one guy's like, well, let me tell you exactly what happens with the government here. There was a dead dude right there, and he points maybe like 2 houses away, and you see sandals sitting there. No one came and got him. We called the government a couple of times. No one came and got that guy. Finally, this morning, Muhammad came down with his cart and dragged him off. Like, oh, fuck. Jesus, how are we going to tell these people they've got a government when there's a dead dude in the gutter for days?
But then again, put it in perspective. Most Americans would get bent out of shape if you left your garbage cans on the street a day after the trash people came.
Your dog pooped on the trail.
They're calling their homeowners association and saying, Bob Smith didn't bring his recycle bin in. It's been out there for a day. And that's what Americans get bent out of shape. So,
totally
again,
different world.
Put it in perspective on the type of friction that these people are dealing with every day. And this is, 12, 14 years after we went into that country, and they're still dealing with that type of friction from a systematic standpoint, from a governance standpoint. Infrastructure still crummy. It's just, I mean, Americans really need to understand that. And oftentimes people say, and I never used to get accused of this, but they say, man, Scott, you are like really laid back, and you know, this sense of care and love comes through you at times.
Yeah.
I'm quite sure that wasn't always the case, but I do look at things at a different lens now.
Sure.
When everyday friction kind of presents itself today, I don't tend to get rattled. And to those that are younger or don't have the same experiences that we do, I always kind of say, or think to myself at least, well, is anyone bleeding?
Yeah.
No one's bleeding, so it's not that bad.
All the time.
There's not that much going on. And, you know, I think it's important, too, because there is this new generation that is – they are the ones fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I just wrote another piece, too, and have been talking about this on a lot of shows, is about our millennials. And I'd like to hear your opinion on it, but I'm a millennial lover.
Okay.
And – you know, those guys, that whole generation gets thrown under the bus constantly on mainstream media. You know, they're too soft. They're always immersed in technology and their iPhones. I'm like, and I always say, who do you think is fighting our wars in Iraq and Afghanistan today?
Yeah.
Millennials.
Yeah.
And you can talk to most active duty guys. They will say the same thing. These kids are as tough as any generation we've always had. And I'm always, you know, telling people, I'm tired of the adage of, you know, I walked uphill both ways in the snow to school, and, you know, the greatest generation was the greatest, and the silent, and baby boomers, and, you know, Gen Xers, that's us.
Yeah.
Who, you know, we didn't even, you know, give ourselves a title. We're like, oh, we didn't really do anything. We're just Gen X.
We're just Gen X.
We're just like, but no, we've done a lot of great things in our
We
generation.
sure have.
And our millennials have done great things. So when they constantly get lambasted about not being the greatest generation, I say every generation is great. Everybody brings something to the table, and that's what's cool about America, man, is we breed greatness, not generations. And that's why the bumper sticker on your truck says America #1. It's not just a bumper sticker. It's the best country in the world. If you don't believe me, go to Iraq, go to Afghanistan, and
go to a shithole.
Get some culture under your belt, and then come back and see me when you can't get fast cash, fast food, or fast gas.
Any time of the day, any hour of the day.
Remember the lines outside of gas stations in Iraq?
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, gas was free or something over there. But,
Basically.
But they'd wait, like 2 hours in line at the gas station? You're thinking like, man, I thought gas would be flowing out of garden hoses in this country. But they wait in line for hours for gas.
We had a battalion that had a major that had a real hard on for stopping the illegal gas trade, because that was funding the insurgency. And I'm like, I'll go talk to these guys. I'll go find out. And so I started talking to them, and I'm like, look, here's the thing. You can shut those guys down, or you can try. But all of these guys are like, this is how I survive. This is how I eat. So if they're giving the money to the insurgency, great. But you're only going to contribute to this person now not being able, and forcing them to go ahead and take up arms. Like, they're out of options.
Yeah.
This is their one option. So maybe this will get – they don't want to be a shithead. They're trying to earn money.
It'd be like me and you going down to downtown Temecula and like ransacking the farmers market, and saying like, "Stop selling homemade goods and your what's the oils that those oils and soaps and like we just destroy this place." We're like, "You can't do this." It's your
marijuana tinctures are against the law.
You're destabilizing home goods and Pure One imports. Stop this right now.
Yeah.
But that's I think you gotta give analogies like that or comparisons because you can't tell these guys to stop. It's how they were supporting their families and offsetting the fact that we had dropped a JDAM on his internet cafe the week before.
Yeah.
So now he's got no other option than to steal gas and sell it out of the trunk of his car.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. No, it's the thing about millennials is I don't fault them because I know enough to know that I'm not supposed to get everything that they get. It's their world. Gen Xers, like, we're disaffected, but we also are, I don't want to say we've built the bridge further, built on the backs of the greatest generation, the baby boomers. We are less and less close to survival. Like, we're further from that. We've accomplished so much. We can talk about gender issues. Mm-hmm. We can have a veteran-specific court. 50 years ago, that stuff wasn't possible,
Yeah.
And we do have problems. Chicago is a mess. People keep killing themselves and killing each other. And Devone Bogan's a great guest. We're going to have him on again. But they're doing fantastic work. They go out. This is what they do. So they go out into Stockton, for example, that has a lot of problems. And they've actually been hired out there to go do it. And they say, give us the worst 25 people you can find. Who do you have out there who's a violent criminal? And we're going to take these guys and we're going to say this. We're going to say, hey, Chris Jackson, that's your name. We're going to give you a little name tent, and we're going to sit at the big oak table at the city hall. And we're going to say, we apologize. First off, we've left you behind as a society and given you no options but to figure out for yourself. That can stop today. Here's the dossier on who you are as a criminal. You will go to jail or you will die. Here are the numbers. Or you can start to get in our program. Now, some of these guys still will die. And now they're candid, but we will help you figure out how to get out. What do you want to do? Do you have an anger problem? Do you have a psychological problem? Do you have a drug problem? All these different things. Which of these things resonates with you? And we're not going to leave you there. We're going to give you this former gun criminal felon guy who's been rehabilitated, and he's going to be like your uncle. And you're going to have accountability. And then we're going to, get you graduated up. And the next levels, you're going to sit next to Crypto Blood, Norteño next to it, whatever, right? And you guys are going to go out and you're going to see another part of the world like DC and a lot of this is funded by the higher level folks. This isn't funded by the community, but you're going to go out and you're going to have a road dog, and that's going to be a guy you're supposed to hate, and you're going to realize you guys are both the same people. And then as you do this work, we're going to compensate you with a stipend, and it can be as much as $1,000. But if you don't do anything, you're going to get zero. And I'll write you a $1 check just to let you know what a $1 check feels like to be handed, because you're not doing your work. Some of you are going to fail and die. Some of you are going to fail and go to jail. Some of you are going to go to jail, figure it out, come back, and we're going to all these things go into this program. When we read about the program in the news, program pays criminals to not commit crime. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And what they do works. Well, how about just say that? This program works is the headline.
Yeah, absolutely. The title is everything. I mean, look,
right.
So again, you've got this narrative that's being played out in mainstream media, how they're totally putting a spin on people that are doing good work. And we're kind of talking about, generations here on the Break It Down show and, being good stewards. And the real message, and that's a great example, is teaching the younger generation how to do it and showing them your mistakes, your successes, your failures, and giving them an opportunity to continue to carry the torch. I mean, that's a perfect example of that. And then when you have this media machine that is just out to sell ad spots during mainstream media, I mean, it's really appalling. It's really discouraging.
It's appalling.
And it takes guys like veterans and first responders, those that are committed, and really this special breed of people that want to help those that can't help themselves. You know, and that's why they're my people. They're my tribe. Yeah. And that's who I surround myself with, because I know I'm always going to be protected. My Marines still do it for me that I fought with. Fellow veterans do, cops and firefighters. They're in it for one reason, and it's not self-serving. It's to help other people. And when that gets smashed down in mainstream media, it's a tragedy. It really is, because those true stories aren't being played out.
That's one of the things we do here, is we try to find these kind of things where I'd rather look, our logo is a saw blade because we want to get to work. We do things.
You got a saw blade sound? Nice. Break it down, show.
But that's what it's about, is like, where is the work at, right? Like, if you have to improve the agricultural capability of the government in some valley in Afghanistan, it doesn't mean that you grab everybody by the collar like the military would do, me like, here's your fucking agriculture. Ugh. No, you figure out why that guy won't leave the government center. You start there and then you build. And this is, so the generational thing is, we've been building. We had the greatest generation. Those guys figured out, like, hey, all of this gigantic country on country war shit is bullshit. And no one can afford it now, and so we don't have massive state-on-state fights. Like, Korea was never going to be World War III. Donald Trump, whatever, Kim Jong-un, whatever. Those guys aren't going to start World War III, because who's going to jump on Korea's side? North Korea is like, if the Chinese will back them to a point, but they're not going to be like, yes, let's go. And Turkey's going to be like, we've been waiting.
It's pronounced China.
China. So the generational thing is they get to work on higher level problems in terms of like a hierarchy of needs. If we're going to go Maslow, right? We can provide for almost everybody. Are we perfect? No, of course not. But in this nation, you can get a wonderful college education paid for. But almost anybody can do that. I mean, you might have to go to the military. You might have to work really hard to find a benefactor. But there are people that are dying to give people money for school all over the place.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we can't just take this negative binary black or white, good or bad view of the world. Donald Trump's a knucklehead, but he does do good things. Monsanto's been a guest on the show as a corporation. We wanted to understand. And what they said was powerful was, yes, they do a lot of fucked up shit to farmers and they're really negative and they protect their patents aggressively. But they also can look and go, we exist because farmers ask us for help. We hire all of the best ag minds we can find. We have all of the big PhDs. We are the smartest company in the world at agriculture. Well, fuck. You know what? That ain't all bad,
Yeah.
So that's how it is with the millennials. They'll have to figure their voice out and advance the ball.
Yeah.
I've got.
I like to say I have faith in them, though.
Sure. Yeah.
I think. I don't know. I don't know who they get the biggest load of it from. Millennials. Maybe I don't even know. Maybe it's not Gen Xers, but you said binary and Maslow all in like one sense. I think binary may be the co-belligerent of this episode. For breaking out. Last episode it was co-belligerent. And Mark was being very co-belligerent-y, I think. Conjugated the word, but that's what is great about this program is there's a little comedy. Mm-hmm. Now we've got a little philosophy. We've got a little I guess anthropology.
Sure. There's a lot of G's in there.
And now sound effects, too.
Yeah.
Love it.
Got to have the sound effects. So if you guys aren't tracking, we're talking to Scott Huesing. He is an author. He wrote Echo In Ramadi. You can grab his attention on Twitter at Echo In Ramadi. You can grab him on Instagram, it's Echo In Ramadi. You can go on Facebook, or you can just go to Amazon and buy the book. And I will tell you right now, this is on the strength of Pete's recommendation. Buy this book. It's excellent. It's not just a war story. It's about how you lead people. And if you aren't sure how to extract the leadership lessons from it, you talk to Scott and he will help you. But that leadership thing, that thing that you said, it does resonate. I've worked with a lot of colonels, and I still consider those. If those guys said, this is what I'm going to do, then they've got my support. And whatever that means. If that means just me high-fiving and clapping, great. If that means me leaning on something, then I've got capacity for those guys because they lead, and I want to be helping those guys. And that's not about lead and follow. It's about contribute. I want to contribute to your success. And you help out people with your organization, Save the Brave. This is where we help each other. Yeah, I've got time for that. I'm glad to mention it here on the podcast. If people want to contribute to that, we're partnered with Charity on Top. You guys can click on the link and provide money to Save the Brave. This is what we do. We all contribute because we all lead, but we all lead each other in unique ways,
Yeah, everybody's got to find their thing, and that's something we enjoy as veterans today that I don't think our Vietnam vets did. They didn't have all of these small boutique 501s that we never say we're the biggest, but what's cool is that we mutually support just like we did on the battlefield.
Yeah.
If we have a network or connection we want to share with another 501, we do that. And we understand what we're good at. We're good at connecting veterans and helping them heal in a safe environment, whether it's offshore fishing or something like that.
Surfing, anything.
Yeah, and we've been getting so much support, and the Chu Family Foundation just donated a massive donation to help Save the Brave because, again, here's average citizens and their son who is a doctor who helps our veterans with some of the psychological issues and does it freely. And when his parents said, hey, we want to donate this massive donation to Save the Brave, where should it go? And Dan says, give it to Save the Brave.
Yeah.
And there's people like that, that they just don't know what to do with their money, or sometimes they don't know what to do with their time. And it's not always a big check, as you know, but we get so many people that volunteer their time. Our our certified, accountant, they said, we want to give you guys a 50% discount because you're doing this for the right reasons.
Right.
And sometimes you just got to ask. And that's part of being the leader of a nonprofit that helps veterans too, is you got to ask people.
Yeah.
I mean, like when Pete and I get done with this podcast, I'm going to ask him like for $10 to make a donation. But I'm going to ask. I mean, this part of it. But just this right here, Pete is donating. It's Saturday for those that aren't aware of what day we're recording this. But Pete drove down. He got lost.
A couple times.
He didn't have his compass. Land navigation is a perishable skill.
I brought a math protractor, not a navigation protractor.
He asked my neighbors for coffee and then directions over to my ranch. So, but
I ended up at their house up there on top.
We're not out in the sticks for listeners. We're just like a Walmart, like 15 minutes away. So it's not like he's navigating North Dakota, but you're giving of your time, helping share this story, and part of the proceeds from Echo In Ramadi go to help save the brave. Boom. And that's really what it's all about at the beginning and the end of every day is helping vets. It's what makes me happy. I think it's what makes you happy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This is what we do. Charity on Top is exactly that. Like when you want to do something, like if I was to bring Scott a gift, you don't need a toaster. You don't need a fancy candle holder because you got a bunch of those things. This one apparently you made yourself. So I don't need to bring you that kind of a gift, but I can bring you a gift card of charity. And then you take it and you go, well, it's going to go to Save the Brave. Bam, you can do that. So on the website, you can pool money. We're going to have the ability just to say, look, we want you guys just to put it wherever, and we'll donate it out to Save the Brave ourselves or just buy a gift card. But just that normal flow of things helps people like Scott who have Save the Brave or Kyle Bucket who does the One Last Wave and all these different people that are helping veterans. And obviously we favor veterans around here because we are veterans. But if you want to do something for cancer, for any kind of research, you can contribute money through Charity on Top. This show in particular, we're going to talk about Save the Brave and Scott's good work there.
Well, this is where the network is so cool. And here's another benefit of being a published author and being a best-selling author is people now want me to do stuff, and it gives me the opportunity. So different other organizations like other 501s, I always email them and say, hey, would you like some signed copies for your silent auction?
Sure.
And that's the beauty of it. And everybody's got enough golf clubs or enough widgets or ridiculous stuff to decorate their house. These are the things when we do our second annual Simon Arlicki golf tournament at Camp Pendleton this year. These are the cool things that that people love to have is, hey, let's have an evening with Pete Turner. Like auction off a podcast.
I would love to.
Man, people would love that.
Yeah.
I did that before the book even launched, was an evening with the author, and I wasn't technically even published. Oh, I was published, but we raised $5,000 for an educational foundation.
Sure.
And it was absolutely my pleasure. And people, it was something unique. And this is what I'm talking about is, offer that up. Say, oh man, I'm a dentist, or how about a free cleaning or something? And those are valuable services that people want. We were talking about dental hygiene earlier in the show.
For sure.
So I use that as an example.
But it's great. I mean, because there are veterans who are like, I would get my teeth cleaned if I could afford it, but I can't. Well, shit, I got $100.
And we know so many people too that those are great ideas that are just percolating right now as I'm talking. And like, guys like Mark Valley, like he's an actor. He's been on so many great shows. And, hey, let's have a coffee with Mark Valley. Like, and he's a vet. Yeah. So those are the things people that aren't exposed to the military community or the entertainment community that it seems it's always you want to do something different. I mean, I bet if I got one of my buddies who's a long haul truck driver who listened to my book on Audible, I said, hey, Jackson, how about giving a guy a ride from the Port of San Diego up to Frisco and doing a long haul truck ride, and they get to sleep in your Peterbilt? You know what he'd say?
Great.
Totally, man, but they're going to have to, bust tires or pump gas. Yeah. But that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that some CPA never gets to do.
Right. No, absolutely. There's a million ways to do this thing.
I hauled a load of steel one time with my brother up. I was home on leave.
Wow.
And he had done like a back-to-back. He goes, man, I may need you to drive. I go, I have no CDL.
Yeah.
But I drove a load of steel from Central Illinois up to Detroit City.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, behind the wheel and honked the horn.
Yeah, you got to, Yeah, let me see some titties.
Totally pimping Pete for that was a week.
Well, I was trying to not override your thing.
Yeah. And then you hit the brakes and it goes.
Oh, I can't do that one. I don't have that sound. I don't have it. I maybe can do a jack brake, though. Let's see. That didn't work too good. That's my jack brake from far away sound.
We have derailed listeners.
Yeah.
But those are great services and, great ways to help veterans and charities. It's not always a big check, although I love big checks.
Yeah.
But
love big
there's
checks.
so many cool things that, people can offer up, and it's fun. I think everybody's got enough candlestick holders and bottles of wine, man. Nobody wants to bid on that stuff at a golf tournament. They want to get together, connect, meet the people. And
I would much rather trade an experience, money for an experience than get some kind of, like, I don't need to sleeve of golf balls. Just take $20.
Totally.
Just take, I don't need that.
Yeah, totally.
All right, well, everybody, Scott Huesing, he's awesome. He is the author of Echo In Ramadi, and you guys definitely should buy his book, partly because some of the money goes to Save the Brave, but also because he's a straight-up dude, and he is a friend, and I really appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we're going to get Pete T-shirts through our vendor.
Yeah, new T-shirts
And then I'm going to
coming.
get a name on the back of mine, like a football jersey. What'd you just call me?
I don't know.
Straight up dude.
Oh, straight up dude.
Yeah, we're going to get monogrammed T-shirts.
Phil, who's your neighbor around here, Phil from Temecula, he gave me a new tagline, I'm America's favorite spy. So I'm going to go with that.
America's favorite spy.
Yep, hashtag America's favorite spy. All right, everybody, we'll talk to you next time.